Okay, let's unpack this. We have landed on well, a truly exceptional source document today. It reads less like a standard corporate filing or, a tech product announcement,
Mhm.
and much more like a manifesto. Our mission today is a deep dive into the new ecosystem of victory with Ash Mufareh, which details the launch of this digital environment called ONPASSIVE.
And this isn't just interesting marketing copy. It's really a fascinating study in how messages are built. The material we've got here, it's this powerful blend, high-level tech ambition on one side,
Right.
and then this profoundly spiritual, almost theological language on the other. It's presented as a global message, hope, purpose, and explicitly divine empowerment. And this is aimed at the people involved, who they call the founders.
That's the tension, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what we really need to hold on to throughout this whole deep dive.
Yeah.
We're looking at a business venture that positions its big tech launch not just as, hitting a market milestone,
No, not at all.
but as a divine continuation of a dream. It actually defines its system as one of destiny.
Hmm.
So we need to pull apart this specific combination. How can technology, faith, and commerce be woven together so tightly and presented as this single coherent story?
Yeah, and setting the tone is, I think, really crucial here because the core identity they're pushing is transformation. It's not just about tweaking some software. It promises certainty and sustainable transformation to its users. The document positions the whole thing as this new ecosystem of victory, and it's supposedly powered by a very specific moral, spiritual purpose. The aim seems to be providing a path that avoids the shortcuts you might see in other high-risk ventures.
Okay, so that immediately raises the question, especially for a knowledgeable listener like you. When a global business starts integrating concepts like, divine purpose, faith, certainty into its core model, what specific expectations does that set for its users? And maybe more cynically, what commercial advantages does that kind of high-level talk provide?
Hmm.
It really sets the stage for something huge, doesn't it? Something much bigger than just, say, a suite of apps. Let's jump right into that foundational philosophy. That's where the architecture of this vision really begins. So when we start looking at the narrative around the leader, Ash Mufareh, the source uses language you'd normally reserve for, I don't know, societal pioneers or spiritual guides, maybe.
Yeah, it's quite elevated.
He's not just presented as CEO or founder. He's positioned as the originator of the dream, a dream expanding from just one person's vision to, supposedly, touch millions across the globe. He's the essential pillar, the one who gives the whole project its unique meaning.
And the source is very careful in defining his leadership style, his ethos. He's the visionary, yes, creates transformations, but the key distinction they make is how he leads. The text claims he leads not with, quote, greed or noise, which you might associate with, aggressive tech culture.
Right, the usual stereotypes.
Exactly, but with grace and truth. This is clearly a deliberate rhetorical strategy. It's trying to establish this ethical, almost morally superior benchmark for his leadership. It immediately sets him and the whole venture apart from what they probably see as corporate cynicism or just short-sighted market grabs.
And they're not shy about framing this leadership using some pretty grand achievements, almost
Yes.
mythological, like you said. The document credits Mufareh with turning compassion into a company and innovation into inspiration. Now, in practical terms, this suggests the company's DNA, the algorithms, the business structure, the profit sharing, whatever it's supposedly built, not on just pure transactional economics, but on this spiritualized, heartfelt intention. But let's push on that claim a bit. Isn't all of this highly effective framing simply, necessary? Necessary to manage the expectations of a huge global founder base that's been waiting possibly for a long time for this product launch.
Oh, it's absolutely necessary. You've hit the nail on the head. It reframes the whole thing. It's not just an exchange of capital for product anymore. It's participation in a shared moral project. And that brings us straight to the mission statement they emphasize: completion over competition. Now, this is perhaps the most significant philosophical claim in the source material. Mufareh allegedly built ONPASSIVE not just to compete in the existing digital marketplace, which is, let's face it, inherently adversarial,
Always.
but to complete humanity's next phase of elevation.
Wow. Okay, that is a staggering claim.
Right.
Because it tries to lift the platform completely out of the usual zero-sum game of capitalism. If they're actually succeeding in completing elevation, then yeah, they're positioned as this non-adversarial, almost transcendent entity. So how does the source claim this? Ethical purity translates down to the actual tangible products.
It connects the philosophy directly to the code. That's the interesting part. The source asserts that every component, every idea, every line of code, every single product allegedly carries a spiritual fingerprint.
A spiritual fingerprint.
Yeah. And this fingerprint is defined by things like inclusion, care, and destiny. Now, this is a brilliant narrative device, if you think about it. If the software itself is infused with spiritual intent, then any failure or even just skepticism about it, well, it could be framed as the user lacking faith in the divine plan of the architecture.
Ah, right. Rather than just questioning a potentially flawed business model or buggy software.
Precisely. It shifts the locus of the problem.
So the promise made to these founders, it changes completely then. It wasn't the promise of, overnight riches, the typical shortcut maybe associated with some ventures.
Yeah, the get-rich-quick idea.
Exactly. But it was for sustainable transformation. And this word certainty. The certainty that supposedly comes from participating in a morally guided system. And this, of course, validates the patience required of the founders who waited maybe for years for the system's creation and launch.
Exactly right. It justifies the wait. And this whole structure culminates in what they explicitly call the order of operations. The source meticulously lays out the hierarchy of values. Before technology came faith, before systems came purpose, and before profits came people.
Okay.
This is the foundational scaffolding for the whole enterprise. So if the technology were to stumble or face delays, the narrative suggests the failure isn't really technical. It's maybe a failure to uphold those higher order values, faith, and purpose.
That rigidity, that's what I find so fascinating here. If we analyze that claim, it suggests that this massive technological system, the AI, the data centers, all the proprietary platforms, it's built on top of a moral framework, a framework defined by choice, truth, fairness, empowerment. It's like a mechanism where ethical considerations are somehow hard-coded into the technology's function itself.
And this moral framework is constantly reinforced to the audience, to the founders. The source gives them this direct affirmation, almost whispering it. Victory belongs to the patient, the faithful, and the fearless. This transforms the necessary endurance, the waiting required during development, into a virtue, a sign of worthiness.
Yeah.
It links the founders' personal character traits, their patience, their faith, directly to the business's supposedly inevitable success. This ensures their loyalty is sustained through ideological commitment, maybe more than just the promise of an immediate financial return.
That's community building on a really deep psychological level.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we move into talking about the actual ecosystem itself, the language shifts again. It goes from philosophical mission to something like a divine mandate. This isn't just presented as an infrastructure investment. The source defines the new ecosystem as more than software. It is a divine alignment between purpose and progress. It takes the concept of, say, cloud services and elevates it into this almost theological meeting place.
It's defined very specifically as the point where AI meets humanity and business meets blessing. And the stated goal is incredibly specific and transformative, not just to automate standard business tasks for efficiency.
Which is what most platforms aim for.
Right. But specifically to automate blessings and multiply effort. Now, for a knowledgeable listener like you, this translates pretty directly into a promise of things like passive income or automated commission structure.
Sure, the practical outcome.
Exactly. But it's framed as this miraculous, benign force designed for the user's ultimate spiritual and financial benefit.
That phrase, automate blessings, that is incredibly potent, isn't it? It suggests that once you're aligned with this ecosystem, your life, both spiritually and materially, will just improve automatically, driven by the technology's inherent good nature. But what's the central mechanism, the unifying force that makes this divine transfer possible?
According to the source, it all comes down to the miracle of unity. The document makes this huge, globally ambitious claim that Mufare performed the miracle of bringing people from over 200 countries together under one digital flag ONPASSIVE.
Right.
Now look, this is a necessary reality for any global digital platform. You need users from everywhere. But framing it as a miracle gives that diversity a kind of sacred significance.
That's a crucial rhetorical move, I agree. It acknowledges the immense scale, different accents, colors, beliefs, but then it unifies them under one heartbeat, one vision, one victory.
Yeah.
This unity isn't just framed as ordinary commercial collaboration. The source insists it's divine. And this isn't just symbolic, apparently. According to the document, this unity attracts power.
The implication there is crystal clear. The collective belief, the shared faith of the founder community, it isn't just emotional support, it's positioned as a literal, tangible fuel for the platform's success.
Like a power source.
Exactly. When united minds walk with faith, miracles manifest. This turns the entire user base into a necessary engine of both spiritual and commercial success. Therefore, the ecosystem thrives on maintaining this ideological unity, which means every transaction, every login, every software update, every online meeting, it becomes a celebration of human achievement when led by truth. It subtly legitimizes a kind of community surveillance, doesn't it? Because dissent could be framed as a threat to that miraculous unity.
That's a sharp point. So if the community is the fuel, what's the role of the individual within that big technological structure? We're told that behind the algorithms, there's an emotion. Behind every launch, a heartbeat. And most importantly, behind every founder, a story of faith. How does this humanize what is fundamentally complex and pretty abstract technology?
It serves as constant reassurance to the founders. You're not just a cog in some machine. The source really hammers home this idea that technology is only powerful when it serves the human soul. So this positions the founders who have shown patience, loyalty, not just as users or early investors, but as co-creators of a legacy.
Co-creators.
Yeah, they are active, chosen participants in this grand, intentional, and divinely sanctioned story.
That concept of co-creation, it elevates their role dramatically. Their loyalty gets defined as a virtue, right? And their digital activity isn't just generating data for the company. It's framed as weaving a piece of history, part of this grand tapestry of ONPASSIVE's victory. This mechanism provides really deep psychological validation. It ensures that the founder's main investment, which has often been their time, their faith, their waiting, is given enormous, almost eternal worth.
It's far more compelling than just offering, say, stock options or early access. It offers meaning.
Okay, so we've set this grand philosophical stage. It's built on faith, unity, divine intent. But a stage needs actors. It needs props. Let's look at how this spiritual alignment actually turns into usable digital products, the O products. And even these are heavily framed. They're categorized not just as apps, but as bridges of opportunity and avenues of empowerment.
Yeah, the framing continues.
They all have to speak this language of ethical, purposeful engagement.
This section is critical, I think, because this is where those really high-level abstract claims have to meet the practical reality of a tech venture. We need to analyze what these products, defined by their spiritual purpose, imply about their technical function, especially given that ethical mandate hanging over the whole ecosystem.
Okay, let's start with OConnect. It's framed as connecting hearts through clarity and creativity. Now, in the context of the larger mission, this implies communication not just for, efficiency.
Right, not just clear video calls.
But for moral clarity.
Yes. So for a video conferencing or communication platform, clarity obviously suggests high-quality, seamless transmission. That's standard. We expect that. But adding creativity and layering on that overall ethical mandate, it suggests a potentially profound difference in how data is handled, maybe privacy settings. If they're truly committed to truth and fairness, OConnect must imply some kind of governance structure that prohibits exploiting or manipulating communication data.
Which would be a huge promise compared to many existing platforms.
Absolutely. It links the active communication directly to those shared moral values.
Okay, then there's OWallet. This promises to redefine financial independence. This clearly links the core technological utility, a digital wallet for managing funds, to that overriding spiritual promise of freedom and automated reward.
This is exactly where Automate Blessings finds its technical home, so to speak. Redefining financial independence has to mean more than just a secure place to hold your money. It likely entails built-in features for passive income generation, seamless commission payouts, perhaps very favorable transaction costs.
All presented as the natural result of this divine alignment.
Precisely. The technology has to facilitate the distribution of the shared wealth generated by the ecosystem. It makes the financial tool itself a vehicle for fulfilling your destiny within ONPASSIVE.
Next up, ONET. This one is explicitly positioned as the ethical corrective, rebuilding social media with integrity. This directly pits ONPASSIVE against the perceived ethical failures, the noise and greed of current social networks that, let's be honest, monetize user behavior very aggressively.
That mandate of integrity here is crucial.
Okay.
Technically, what could it mean? It really suggests a complete rejection of targeted behavioral advertising based on invasive surveillance. That would be revolutionary. It must imply specific content moderation policies that align with their truth and grace model, maybe favoring positive, constructive content over just viral negativity. The integrity claim has to mean a different data model fundamentally, one where the user perhaps truly owns their social graph, preventing that extraction of personal data for, adversarial commercial purposes.
Okay, moving on. O-Shop. This is tasked with revolutionizing global e-commerce. Again, this revolution has to stick to the platform's standard of fairness and truth.
Right. So in e-commerce, how do you revolutionize based on truth and fairness? It suggests a structure designed to empower the sellers and consumers more directly, maybe through decentralized transaction models, maybe exceptionally low fee structures that really respect that people over profits order of operations they talked about.
Cutting out the middle layers.
Potentially. Cutting out exploitative middle layers, ensuring those automated financial blessings can flow more directly to the founders who are actually involved in the commerce.
And finally, O-Tracker. This aims for empowering digital insights, but with a specific mandate of transparency.
Okay, O-Tracker sounds like their analytics suite. Now, in a typical company, analytics empower the company to better target you, the user.
Yeah.
Here, the transparency mandate flips that. It suggests these insights are for the user's empowerment. What could that look like? Perhaps it means founders get full, comprehensible dashboards showing exactly how their activity contributes to the network's success, and crucially, how their compensation is calculated. No black boxes.
Because if the ecosystem claims truth.
The analytics have to reflect that truth openly. That would be a sharp contrast to the opaque algorithms common elsewhere in the industry.
It's fascinating. Analyzing this product list reveals that every piece of software is fundamentally treated as a moral instrument. They were built, yes, to communicate, create, earn, connect, but always ethically, powerfully, and permanently. That permanence word is interesting too. Suggests this isn't just a commercial venture, but an enduring legacy-building system.
It's the technical expression of the spiritual intent, isn't it? That commitment to ethics and to permanence serves as the guarantee to the founder community. A guarantee that their loyalty won't be betrayed down the line by shifting commercial interests or a sudden change in direction. It promises stability.
Okay, this next section, I think, demands the most detailed analysis from us, because the source elevates what is usually a standard procedural requirement, identity verification, into something far beyond just a routine security check.
Absolutely. This is maybe the most unique part.
O-Verify is treated as this highly important, almost ritualistic step. It's explicitly labeled not as a burden, which many people find KYC to be.
Right, it's usually a pain point.
But as a gateway of belonging.
This transformation of bureaucratic compliance, the know your customer or KYC process that's required globally for financial platforms, turning that into a spiritual act is, I agree, probably the most unique rhetorical move in the whole document. O-Verify is defined as more than just a security layer. It's framed as a symbol of purity and readiness. Purity. It establishes a kind of moral screening process for entry into this highly exclusive new ecosystem of victory.
Let's just probe the psychology there for a moment. Standard KYC, it's often tedious, feels invasive, and users generally view it negatively. By framing it as a gateway of belonging and a symbol of purity, the user's potential frustration is kind of transmuted into anticipation. Compliance becomes equated with spiritual worthiness.
Exactly. That's precisely the mechanism. When a founder verifies they're fulfilling a dual purpose. Yes, they confirm their legal identity, which is absolutely essential for financial payouts, legally and practically. But more significantly in this narrative, they are confirming their destiny. This process is presented as the definitive signature, the act that states, I am ready for victory. It fuses the mundane digital action of uploading documents with the founder's predetermined path to success within the ONPASSIVE story.
So it's this profound moment of alignment. It links the material financial reward directly to this moment of absolute, vetted compliance and, crucially, ideological commitment. But given the source's claims about advanced AI and high tech, what does divine precision in O-Verify suggest about the actual technological security involved? Is it just fancy words?
Well, divine precision suggests, or at least promises, a robust and perhaps genuinely cutting-edge identity protection framework. It implies the use of advanced biometrics, maybe unique digital identifiers, something going beyond simple password protection. Because the entire system is built on trust and that promise of automating complex financial rewards, the identity verification has to be impeccable to prevent fraud, which they then frame as maintaining the system's purity. So the technological rigor itself becomes evidence of the spiritual seriousness behind it all.
The source is quite clear about Mufar's intention behind structuring it this way. It says he ensured the verification process would be simple, secure, and sacred. Why the sacred element? If the technology itself is already secure, what does sacred add?
The sacred element is the mechanism of exclusion. It defines the in-group. The source explicitly states the reason for this rigid, almost ritualistic process. What comes next must belong only to the real, the loyal, and the faithful.
Hmm.
So this frames O Verify as effectively a test of loyalty. It ensures that only those who have endured the waiting period and who now affirm their commitment through this digital ritual, the ideologically aligned, only they receive the ultimate rewards.
So it's not just a commercial hurdle to jump over. It's an emotional filter. Those who dropped off along the way or who were skeptical and didn't complete it, they are effectively self-selecting out of the reward system. The process of verification, therefore, becomes the final absolute dividing line between the doubters and the truly chosen.
Precisely. Verification is labeled, quite unequivocally, as the final bridge to your reward. This creates an extremely powerful incentive structure, one based on achieving spiritual acceptance within the community. If you pass through this sacred gateway, you are deemed worthy, you've proven your loyalty, and therefore you are ready to receive the financial blessings that ONPASSIVE promises to automate. It moves the entire discussion away from market readiness or technical deployment and firmly into the realm of divine providence and almost personal redemption for the founder. And critically, any delay in verification, or maybe a failure to complete it, can then be internalized by the founder, maybe as a personal lack of readiness or even a lack of faith.
Rather than just a technical glitch or a bureaucratic snag.
Exactly. It protects the system narrative.
That's a really vital piece of the puzzle for you, the listener, to grasp understanding how these complex compliance procedures can be repurposed into community-affirming rituals, especially in these high ideology environments. All right, so having crossed that final bridge of verification, we now arrive at the promised destination, the season of victory. And the source defines victory in terms that explicitly validate the founder's long journey. It states victory is not given freely, it is earned through endurance. It is retroactively sanctifies that difficult waiting period they went through.
This is the critical payoff narrative. This is where patience is converted into profit, or at least the promise of it. The waiting, the praying, the believing, all that spiritual investment the founders put in is now explicitly described as turning into witnessing the material rewards. The document claims the seeds they planted through faith are now blooming into financial freedom and personal fulfillment. It's the moment where the spiritual journey and the promised material reward are finally synthesized into reality, at least within the narrative.
And the source uses this victory to reinforce Ashmufari's unique position again. The successful rise of the ecosystem, as they present it, is proof that true visionaries don't just follow trends, they create transformations. And maybe most importantly, the launch itself is positioned as proof that divine timing never fails.
Ah, yes.
So any perceived delay during the development phase is now reframed. It wasn't a setback. It was necessary synchronization with some higher plan.
That narrative structure is absolutely essential for long-term community management. You have to explain the past. It justifies all the past difficulties, all the waiting, and it cements the belief in Mufari's leadership as being divinely guided. Nothing was accidental. And this convergence of faith and victory leads directly to the new purpose for the founders. Their job isn't over. Their mission in this new era of victory is now clear. They are tasked with multiplying this blessing out in their own communities.
Right, so this moves the founders from being somewhat passive recipients waiting for the system to becoming active evangelists, missionaries almost. They are tasked with sharing the knowledge, lifting others up, and proving the organization's foundational thesis that technology guided by purpose can heal the world. The business model itself now seems to rely on this missionary mandate for its continued growth and expansion.
And the source wraps this section up with a very clear, almost militaristic call to action. Rise, reset, refocus. This is the command to shift gears, move from patient waiting to active participation in the growth phase, but always maintaining that high ideological standard that was established right from the beginning.
They have to become living testimonials to the system's success.
Exactly.
So the Taurus assures them this entire process has followed an eternal blueprint. The initial vision has seamlessly transitioned, apparently, from a dream into destiny. Every founder is assured they are an indispensable part of that blueprint, handpicked by purpose itself. And the victory, ultimately, is achieved through the combined effort of three forces: Mufari's faith, the founder's loyalty, and finally, God's grace.
It is, simply put, a masterclass in foundational messaging. It fuses the most aggressive elements of global commerce scale, technology, financial ambition, with concepts of community, spiritual purpose, and divine destiny into one seemingly unassailable narrative. #outro.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, taking this in? We've just completed a pretty deep dive into the core components of this ONPASSIVE message. We've analyzed that extraordinary integration of faith and finance, the absolute necessity of global unity spanning over 200 countries, that unique spiritual framing of bureaucratic verification as a required test of loyalty, and of course the ultimate promise of total transformation both financially and personally.
And this really serves as a crucial case study in message strategy, doesn't it? We've examined how a major technological venture can frame its launch using the highest possible ideological or spiritual rhetoric, words like destiny, divine order, purpose. And this isn't just to attract users initially, it's to mobilize, organize, and crucially, maintain the fierce loyalty of a global community, often over long periods of waiting. The narrative successfully validates their patience and translates their personal faith directly into a promise of commercial success.
It fundamentally redefines the relationship between a user and a platform. It elevates it from just a simple service contract to something more like a sacred contract bound by ideological commitment. The source material declares, quite pointedly, this is not just business, this is ONPASSIVE with a heart.
Yeah, that phrase really encapsulates the entire vision they're presenting. So we have to leave you with this final provocative thought to consider. We have analyzed a global tech system that explicitly bases its legitimacy and its promise of financial success not on traditional market valuation or metrics, but on concepts like purity, loyalty, and adherence to a divine order. What are the implications, really, for the future of digital communities when business success becomes explicitly linked, not just innovation or market share, but to an eternal, supposedly God-driven blueprint, one that turns every user into a vetted co-creator of destiny?
Something profound to mull over as you analyze the next major disruption you encounter in the digital world. This has been The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.